Hello. So, welcome everybody. Can anybody hear me? Excellent. Sam can hear me. That's good. Uh, right. Okay, I'm just going to wait a few minutes for anybody else to join, any latecomers or people that might have just seen me going live. Am I loud enough, by the way? Ah, hello, Sarah. Hello, Samantha. Cool. So, how's everybody doing anyway while we're waiting? Yeah, I could, but I might get kicked off Facebook if I sing. So, right, okay, I'm just going to kick off then. Right, so welcome to the Empires of Bronze Dawn of War premiere. And this, as you can see, is the packed out venue where everybody's got their copies of the book. They're all very excited, as you can see, and even in the top there, you can see an owl hanging down from the ceiling with his own personal copy. Uh, the only thing to point out is the chap in the bottom right looks a bit grumpy. Maybe we ran out of copies before he got his. Who knows? Who knows? Uh, oh, hold on. Just speaking of latecomers, we've got some news coming in. Apparently, there's two famous faces turned up just at the last minute. Let's see, oh, yeah, can we spot them? I'll guide your eyes down to the bottom left corner there. We've got Madonna with two copies of the book because she likes it that much. And there's another face that you might recognise. Can anybody see him? Yes, it's in the bottom right again. We've got none other than Tom Cruise, actual size, with his miniature version of the book. He's looking pretty happy there. Ah, of course, I'm jesting. There is no venue. There's just me in my writing room because I'm in lockdown like everybody else. I've just nearly knocked my microphone off, which doesn't help. But yeah, thanks for tuning in to Launch Day Live for Empires of Bronze, Dawn of War. So yeah, genuinely, how is everybody doing? I know we can't speak. I wasn't sure if we'd be able to do audio with each other, but it doesn't look like it. But I can show you how I'm doing in quarantine. I've got some widgets here. It's day 46, I think, and I've got a reasonable temperature by the looks of it. So, but just keep an eye on that. But yeah, so the reason I'm doing this, so launch day might sound glamorous, like it involves champagne and parties, but normally for me, it just means going to lots and lots of different websites and typing in my details and getting my book listed here, there, and everywhere. So I've been doing that all day today. That's been the excitement, and I've almost got stumpy little fingers from typing so much. So yeah, one day I might get a publicist and arrange a proper party, a proper piss up. But until then, I thought this might make things feel a little bit more launchy. That was launchy with an L, by the way. So the book. So here's my paperbacks in from Amazon a few days ago. So yeah, I mean, I do kind of enjoy designing the covers. So I've got a very kind of desert theme for this one. You'll find out based on the location of the story and everything, why that's the case. But we've got Hatu here, our hero, the Hittite prince, with his bronze armour, his green cape, and you can see one of his two swords there. That's one of the twin swords he inherited from his military mentor, Kurunta One Eye, in Book 1. This is his team, his chosen men that are setting off into the desert. And yeah, I think the image sort of encapsulates the kind of spirit of the story. We're talking about a kind of a desert adventure. And yeah, so this is the paperback, obviously. So it's available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. And I'll be doing giveaways of all three formats over the next few weeks. So watch out for blogs and competitions and everything. You could win your copy. And talking of giveaways, I've got other stuff too. This shrink-wrapped, pristine copy of the Book 1, Son of Ishtar, the audiobook with all the CDs in there. It's good to a free home. I just need to think of some sort of question or something for a competition. There's that. And there's also this. Yes, I am a grown man, but this is an Airfix style kit for making two Hittite chariots. So you get a bit of glue, you put the pieces together, and you paint it up, and hey presto, you've got Hittite chariots. So that'll go into a goodie bag at some point too, amongst other stuff. Right. So now to do the wrestling with technology thing. Right, I'll get rid of the widgets. And so yeah, I'll just say, because I'm not keeping an eye on the Facebook comments right now. Oh no, I can see them. Yeah. Hi Denise, stroke Matt. Hello Sandra. Nice to see people. What was I doing? Yeah, so what I was going to do is just talk a little bit about the book and then do a little bit of a reading from the book, and then we'll do a Q&A. So if I... Whoa, hide, and it wasn't so bad. So yeah, the story's all about, so it's 5 years after the end of Book 1, and now the Hittite and Egyptian empires are at loggerheads. They're poised to declare war on each other. And these two are like the superpowers of the age in the 13th century BC. And Prince Hatu, the hero, he's now the general of the Hittite Storm Division. But more than that, he's something of a talisman, like a hero for the Hittite army. And things sound pretty good for him, but he's got a problem in that Ishtar, the goddess of love and war, stalks his dreams, and she keeps showing him visions of a terrible future should this war happen. She shows him visions of his wife, Atiya, dead in his arms, and other people and things he loves in complete ruins. And of course, I mean, you might think, it's just dreams, it doesn't matter. But the thing is, in Hatu's day, dreams were viewed as something very, very real, and it was almost like a god had put a message in that person's head while they slept. And this was the gods communicating directly with them. And indeed, there was a saying, Hittites should always heed their dreams. So, of course, Hatu was waking up every morning, thrashing, covered in sweat, panicking, like, stop this war at any cost. So he goes to his brother Mua, who's now the king or Labarna of the Hittites, and he pleads with him to avert this war and avoid these kind of dire consequences. And he sees there's one kind of potential remaining thread to a chance to avert the war, and to it's a kind of a diplomatic possibility of maybe solidifying the Hittite borders with Egypt and getting the Egyptians to back right off. So the plan involves gathering up his best men. So there's Dagon, the chariot expert, Tanku, the big burly infantry champion, Kizna, the archer, and Sargis, the one who everybody else takes the piss out of, basically. And there's a few others that Hatu calls into this chosen band that might actually surprise you based on things that happened in Book 1. Just leave that there. But so this group, they get together and they head off to the desert borderland between the Hittite and Egyptian empires. And so off to the desert land they go, and the adventure unfolds from there. And what I wanted to do was just show you the video I put together for it. I know a lot of you have probably seen it online already, but basically I'm really proud of it and I wanted to show it off again. So here we go. Oh, and if at any point when I'm doing this, if you can't hear me or if I go silent, just let me know, because of, as you might have noticed on my Facebook stream this week, I've been kind of wrestling with the tool I'm using to do this. So somebody message me if my lips are moving but there's no sound. Anyway, here's the video. So there you go. Yeah, I was just spotted the comments in the Facebook page there. Hi to everybody else that I didn't notice coming in. Nice to see a wee crowd. And yeah, I didn't realise Facebook was trying to do subtitles. The mind boggles as to what it's translated my accent as. Cool. Yeah, so the video, as I said, I'm quite proud of it. So where was I? So in the video there was a couple of maps, and I just wanted to kind of show a little bit more of that. So here, I'm going to try and make this full screen. When I've practiced this before, it somehow the audio cut out. So as I say, just somebody give me a nudge if I go silent, because I'm supposed to be talking over this. So I'll go full screen. You can't hear me. Right, okay. Thanks, Sam. Can you hear me now? Going quiet. Yep, yep. Okay, so I think you should be able to hear me now. I'll assume you can. So this is the world map of empires of bronze. It's basically the Eastern Mediterranean, and there's the four main powers are marked out in different colours. So you've got in the north this kind of pink area roughly covering Turkey, like modern Turkey. That's the Hittite Empire, or the Shittite Empire, as my father-in-law insists on calling it. And in the south, you've got this yellow region, which is the Egyptian Empire. And those two are really, as I say, the big players of the day. But you've also got it sounds back, excellent. The other two powers, the Assyrian Empire in the east, in this kind of peachy zone. And in this green area was the land of the Achaeans. Now, the Achaeans and the Assyrians don't really play much of a part. Well, they play a little bit of a part, but not a major part in this story, Dawn of War. But in future volumes, they most certainly come into play. Yeah, so, and then the other map that was in the video, this is like we'll go back to the first one. Yeah, there's a dotted region here, called in the bit where the Hittite and the Egyptian empires meet. It's like a dashed dotted line, the vassal lands of retinue. So if I just zoom in on that, yeah, so you can see this is a bit where the two empires meet, as I say, and it's a kind of a vital region. It's basically the trade hub of the Bronze Age world. It's where everything came through, all different textiles and minerals and precious items and spices and most vitally tin. We think that tin came through here from the east, from Afghanistan, and from there was distributed to the areas in the previous map. It wasn't the only source of tin, but it was one of the major ones. And of course, the reason tin was important is because in the Bronze Age, tin plus copper equals bronze, equals lots of weapons, equals world domination. So that's why everybody wanted to control this region. And you can see it's like a land of sort of quite a varied terrain. You've got sweeping mountain ranges, massive rivers, and the right hand side there, the bit with wiggly lines, that New Hashi as it's called, that's desert, and that's basically the start of the Syrian desert in modern terms. And it was so this land was, rather than being directly controlled by the Hittites and the Egyptians, it was more a kind of system of client kingdoms or vassals, where there was a lot of petty kingdoms that were allowed to the kings of which were allowed to rule over their patch of land, but only in return for paying like a yearly tribute, either to the Hittite Labarna or to the Egyptian pharaoh. And if either of those called their vassals to war, they were oath bound to take up arms and go to war. So if I could draw your eye to the coastline there, there's a kind of winding region called Amuru, and down at the bottom of that region there's a city, that's the black square, a city called speculatively Amur. We think it was quite a rural region, this, but Amur, the city, we think there was at least one fortified capital there, and this is the speculative name for it. And so if you just kind of take in the hinterland there, you've got a river, the mountains, the sea, and the Egyptian lands quite close by. And so keep that in mind. And what I'm going to do is do the little reading from the book. So this is a really short chapter, for one reason, because I don't have the skills of a Radio 4 voice actor, but also because it's quite pithy, and I think it doesn't actually involve Hatu, but it sets the scene for the book, I reckon, quite nicely. So hide this, and hopefully you can still hear me. Yeah. Right. So here we go. This is Dawn of War, Chapter 2. On the Edge of a Blade, Spring 1294 BC. We Amorites live on the edge of a blade, King Bentushina whispered as he strolled the battlements of Amur's high white walls. They were words oft repeated by his uncle, the previous king, long gone now, claimed by the plague in its worst years. The mantra had vanished deep into the recesses of Bentushina's mind, yet on this most ordinary of days, as he watched his men in the courtyard below preparing wagons for the long journey ahead, it had chosen to creep back into the forefront of his thoughts. We Amorites live on the edge of a blade, he repeated, then fell silent again, snapping his fingers as if he could coax the rest of the saying, as he might summon a slave. But try as he might, the words would not come. How irksome, he thought. He turned to look out across the countryside of his realm. Amaru, a labyrinth of bait gullies and rich woods, hemmed by a bounteous ocean in the west and a rampart of mountains in the east. Bees buzzed and cicadas sang in the molten gold afternoon light, the air spiced with the scent of cedar. He rested his hands on the soft white linen of his robe, the thumbs tucked into the cool silver links of his belt. He let his eyelids droop and enjoyed the heat of the sun on his recently bathed skin, tilting his head back a little to let his oiled hair, clubbed at the nape of his neck, slide down his back. Amaru, wondrous Amaru, he thought, his mind drained of the old and irritating memories, and his spirits soared. He sighed in contentment and gazed southwards. There, the river Eleutheros ran like an argent ribbon, rising somewhere in the Bargalis Mountains and running due west to meet the coast. The waterway served as a convenient southern border between his lands and those of Gubla in the south. As the waters winked and sparkled, he realised that, in some ways, the river resembled a polished knife. This brought a little more of his uncle's mantra back from the broom of memory. We Amorites live on the edge of a blade. Two mighty hands rest upon the hilt. One Hittite, one Egyptian, each straining to turn the weapon upon the other. Bentasina gazed over the river and into sun-washed Gubla, merely a haze from this distance. The king of Gubla answered to the Egyptian pharaoh, while he, King Bentasina of Amaru, was the subject of the Hittite Labarna. That river was the meeting point of the two empires, but it was quiet, at peace. Hittite dignitaries visited Amaru as friends and brothers. Egyptian envoys and scouts, the ears of the pharaoh, came and went to Gubla in peace also. The borders were respected, and it had been this way for generations. There was no struggle. The blade was sheathed. Your wagons are ready, Majesty, a plump slave spoke in little more than a whisper behind him, from the high walkway linking the citadel walls to the palace. You can set out this afternoon or wait until morning. Either way, you will make it to the Hittite lands and to the court of the Labarna in ample time for the yearly gathering. Bentasina glanced down at the 6 ox-drawn wagons now stocked and waiting. The plushest of them was his to ride as king. The next was packed with his escort of 12 Amorite soldiers, clad in snow-white linen headscarves, tunics, loose trousers, their torsos strapped with baked leather, and each man carrying a claw-topped spear. The 4 other vehicles were crammed with vases of the famed Amorite wine. A smile pulled at his lips as he thought of the drunken festivities that awaited at the end of the long journey. He turned away from the walls and stepped towards the palace, when another voice halted him. Majesty. Bentasina swivelled his eyes to the young wall sentry nearest him, mustachioed, face sparkling with sweat, fingers clasping and unclasping his spear anxiously. What is it, Iranzi? The young soldier licked his dry lips. When the dust storms rise, they usually come from the burning lands. Aye? Aye, from beyond the mountains, from Nuhashi in the east, Bentasina replied. Iranzi lifted a shaking arm, one finger extended, pointing to the south. Then what, my king, is that? Bentasina turned to look south again. Beyond the Eleutheros, a low wall of disturbed earth billowed and puffed. It was drawing speedily northwards, closer to the Eleutheros ford, growing higher, higher, wider and wider. He crept towards the parapet, straining to see, his heart hammering. When he saw the source of the storm, he recoiled as if someone had thrown a snake at him, shaking agog. At just that moment, the next line of his uncle's words pinned him. One day the blade will turn, and the world will turn upon its tip. There we go. Hopefully that was tantalising. Hopefully everybody heard that, and you didn't just leave me babbling soundlessly for 5 minutes. Just check the comments quickly. Yes, Sandra, I just noticed your comment about tin and Cornwall, and they actually did. That might seem strange, but in the Bronze Age there was trade with Britain. Tin did come from Britain as well, and Spain, I believe. It must have been quite some journey if you imagine a Bronze Age ship going all the way around the Mediterranean coast, or possibly overland, I don't know, and then across the Channel. But yeah. Thanks, Sam, for confirming. I wasn't just reading to myself. Okay, so I was just going to do the Q&A. If anybody's got any questions, just fire away. If you pop them into whichever chat you're using, I can see 2 chat windows, but I'm picking them all up. So anything you'd like to ask, just fire away. Oh, and there's going to be a bit of a delay because I think the stream you're seeing in Facebook is about a minute behind. So this might be the time for some elevator music. Or maybe I could start assembling this for everyone's entertainment. I don't have any juggling balls or anything, so. Yes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure good question. From Sam Todd, did the Hittites eventually become Phoenicians and that region become the cities of Tyre, etc.? It's not a yes or no answer, but the fragments of the Bronze Age, which didn't last a great deal longer, and the rest of the books in this series will explain why. Some of the diaspora of the Bronze Age eventually became what we know as the Phoenicians. Not directly the Hittites, though that's not to say that there wasn't Hittite influence in there. I hope that makes sense. Question from, it's not Samantha, it's David Baird. I thought you were looking a bit female there, David. How many volumes have you got planned in the series so far? So there are going to be 6 volumes. This is number 2. There only will be 6 volumes because, no spoilers, but it's a pretty hard stop. Sometimes history has a kind of long, like a kind of pulling a piece of string. This is not like that. Don't want to give anything away, but yeah, so 6 books for Empires of Bronze. And yes, Sandra, yes, future volumes. So as I say, 4 more. And weirdly, I've already written 2 of those completely, and I'm working on the 5th one. I've just got into a funny kind of traffic jam with the whole publishing machine, and I can't release them all too close together. I don't think that's a good idea, but it does mean that I'll be able to release the next volumes pretty rapidly instead of it being like a year or more than a year until the next one. It should be I'm planning on releasing volume 3 in autumn, and then volume 4 in spring 2021, and then autumn and then spring for 5 and 6 again, unless life gets in the way. That should happen. Just looking for further questions, as I say. Hey, how did I yes, from David Baird again. So how did I research the Hittites? Did I visit anywhere nice? Oh yes. So you may or may not have seen my epic blog, like the biggest blog in the world I've ever written. The Hittite Trail. What I should do is post the link in here. That's not seen it. So last summer we went to Turkey and Georgia. We flew to Istanbul and um, post it in here. Started in Istanbul, which is the link I've posted, and went overland on the excellent Turkish trains. Well, some of them are excellent, some of them are a wee bit uh, rustic, maybe is the best way to put it. But they got us from A to B. Um, we went to Ankara, the capital of Turkey, right in the almost the centre of Turkey, and very close to Hattusa. Of course, visited Hattusa, the Hittite capital, and walked around the ruins there, and that was fantastic. It's it's quite hard to appreciate the scale of what's left there, even though most of it's gone. What's left is still pretty awesome. Just the expanse of this city and the really weirdly kind of mountainous location of it. So that was Prince Hatu's home, and it was really kind of evocative to walk around his home city, basically, to actually be there instead of just reading and writing about him. And then we got the infamous overnight train to Erzurum. I thought we had booked a carriage, what do you call it, a sleeper cabin with, the picturesque kind of breakfast of orange juice and croissants in the morning. Nope, it turns out I had booked a kind of standing room space for us for an 18-hour journey with no air conditioning in the height of summer. It's a good war story to have to tell people, but the scenery was amazing on the way. Seeing the Pontic Mountains and the beginnings of the Euphrates, just awesome. And I'll stop rabbiting on, but yeah, we went to Georgia after that and across to Tbilisi, and what a trip. So we have here we are. And one from Denise. Where do I get my inspiration from? It's just history. If you find the right kind of the right voice to describing history, you get books that are really dry and quite difficult to penetrate, but there are some voices that really just bring the history to life as non-fiction. So for the Hittites, it was Trevor Bryce. He's a Aussie professor, and he's probably the world's most prominent Hittitologist, which is what you call a Hittite expert. And his books were brilliant. I've got this is one of them, The Kingdom of the Hittites. Looks pretty big, but it's the way he tells the way he describes the history. There's anecdotes, there's jokes, there's humour, and it just paints such a vivid picture. And that's kind of what I aim to do with these chaps here. It's the same kind of thing, to make it feel more than just a kind of repetition of facts and figures and detail. And it's the same with my Roman books and Byzantine books. There's always one author, one non-fiction author that really just sort of kindles that flame, that interest. That's a really good question. There's lots of little things that inspire me, but I think it is that just finding the author with the right kind of touch to kind of get that to set that train of thought running. Oh, okay. Good question from David Baird. Yeah, this. I wondered if this was my most brutal tale so far. That'll be up to readers to decide. One thing I will say is Simon Turney. I know you're here. There's a chapter in this book that you must not read. That's all I'll say. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I should apologise for some of the brutality, but it depends what sort of day I'm having. Sometimes it just needs to be written. That's what we got. And Sandra, how in depth do you plan? Lots of research, character timelines, etc. Yeah, I'm very much a planner. Once Simon again commented that I was so pernickety about planning that I even had character timelines with details such as the character's pube length mapped out in it. I don't actually go to that level of detail, but I do probably overdo it a little bit. If there's a sliding scale of how much people plan, I'm probably a bit more in the planner side. But I just find it's my early books. I just kind of went for it, and then found I had to plan and fix later on, and it was much more enjoyable a process to plan carefully, and then kind of use that as the tracks for the story for the first draft to kind of spring forth from. So yeah, and as well, I love the research. I love that's the couch behind me is in the writing room. That's where I'll just sit with my books and a cup of coffee and just read away all day. I love the research phase. I love the research trip phase as well. I do love the writing phase, but sometimes it's a bit of a slog. But you know, you have good days and bad days. Question from Maya Kaiser. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Um, yes. I'm especially curious to read more about your interpretation of the Hittites versus the Ahiawans in future volumes. So, you may have guessed, you might not, but the Ahiawans is almost certainly, it's pretty much accepted today that they were the Achaeans from Homer's Iliad, Homer's Greeks, basically. So yeah, they've got a big part to play in future volumes. And from Sam Taw, Life is Brutal then. Yeah, it was. One thing I did find from these kind of texts was that actually the Hittites were notably humane. That's the right choice of word. They tended to favour, they did use capital punishment, but they tended to favour kind of strict financial penalties if possible. Compared to, I think the Assyrians had a really notorious reputation for being, if you leave a gate open, you get hung, drawn, and quartered. Yeah, the brutality thing. The Assyrians have got a lot to answer for in that era. Yeah, the Hittites they weren't standoffish about being violent, but compared to maybe some of their contemporaries, they were a little bit. Back to the questions. Good question from Sandra Pascoe again. Is there an era in history you really would love to write about but haven't found your voice yet? Yes. There's How can I do this without spoilers? There's two definite prime candidates. What we'll say is one is quite soon after the era of Legionary, and one is a little bit after that. Yeah, and both of those are before the era of Strategos. So there's a kind of vague answer, but gives you a sort of teaser. And I will get to both. Yeah. Zip. Hello, Will Norman. Thanks for joining. Righto. See, I had scheduled this for half an hour. It's quite nice that people have got loads of questions. I'm not in a hurry to finish up or anything, so if anybody's got any other questions, just fire them in. Otherwise, I'll maybe give it another 5 minutes or so. I feel bad because Will's just joined as well, but how are the subtitles looking? Still ridiculous? Righto. Okay, I'll begin to draw the curtain there. So, thank you very much for joining, and I hope I've convinced you to try Dawn of War. What would be great is if after this video sort of appears as a finished thing on Facebook, if you could share it, it would be really, really good. So, yeah, thanks everybody, and oh, wait a minute. News just in. I'm hearing that there's a bit of a fracas at the premiere venue. Apparently, oh, yes, Tom Cruise has gone crazy and he's stolen a big pile of books and ran off without paying for them. Oh, you look at that. Oh, what a disgrace. Anyway, nonsense aside, thanks for joining, everybody. And yeah, I'll hopefully do this again at some point. I hope you enjoyed all the bits and pieces, and I'll speak to you all soon. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Bye.